Hello and welcome to Midlander Gaming. Bit of a update now for Legion's Imperialis, and we're moving on to the Solar Auxiliaries. I forgot what they're called already, but the Solar anyway. So all I'm going to do is just run through what I've done so far in painting my starter setup and just a couple of other things as well. And this is linked to the previous video where I've already painted up, apologies, that's my phone, already painted up the Alpha Legion. So as you'll see in some of the photos, actually I painted the Solar before I did the marine stuff. But without further ado, let's have a look at what I've done and hopefully inspire others to join in. So I'll just switch scenes. So firstly, I've got my planes now. I actually painted these before Legion's Imperialis came out, but obviously I can use these as part of the new game set. I never actually played Aeronautica. To be honest, I weren't that fussed by the rules when I read them. But the models, however, were very cool, so I did buy a few. So as you can see, I've not finished them, but these two are probably the closest to being finished because I've got a bit of the weathering and the streaking on. And then I've just got a couple more bombers, two more bombers base coats. You just need the finishing touches like the lighting, and you can see I've kind of put some kind of, I don't know what it's called, two-tone onto the windows to give it a bit of a cockpit feel, and then you need to put the weathering from the smoke and so on and so forth. I need to put that onto the Furies as well, but at the moment I've got two bombers completed, which should be enough for some early games. So that's my bombers. Another view there. So I've got some, what have I got? The destroyers, I think they're what they're called, and then just the regular four of the regular Marauders, and then two Thunderbolts. I think that'll be plenty for starting with. So on to the actual Legion's Imperialis. Now I did the bombers in a similar way, so I sprayed them with Sandry Dust as a base coat prime, and you'll see I've kept kind of the Sandry Dust theme going onto the tanks as well as the Navy. For some reason I decided to put my finger in to just show the scale of these, but that's the Bane blade I'm making there, which I've got to say is an absolutely lovely kit. The detail, as you can see, my finger and the fingerprints, and these rivets are, the size of a fingerprint or the width of a trench of a fingerprint. They're tiny, absolutely tiny detail, but the detail's still really crisp despite being so small, and the models go together very, very well, so they are very, very nice. So there's just another view. You can see as I put it all together, it's pre-primed on the sprue with the Sandry Dust, and there it is fixed. So obviously there's little bits to touch up where it's been attached to the sprue and things, which is easy to touch up at this stage. But that is a Bane blade fully built, and there we are. There's the two Bane blades built. So I think I did a slight variety in the armament. I put some men on top of one to signify being a command one, and for the command one I went with the auto cannon sponsons, and then the other one I went for the heavy bolter sponsons, and I didn't put any troops in the top. Now there's another cannon you can have. It's it's essentially a demolisher cannon with a few more inches. Now I've not played a game yet, but it seems daft not to go for the big Bane blade cannon. It just seems far superior to the I think it's the Hellhammer cannon possibly, but yeah, personally I think the sticking with the big turrets, which looks best as well, seems to be the best, or I would think would be the best build. So there we are. So tanks made and primed Sandry Dust, bit of a lighter picture there, but just unbelievable amount of detail. If you didn't know the scale, you'd just be thinking you're looking at one of the big models. So then we went on to the Malcadors. So two of these in the starter set, And I went, I think, a mixture of the armaments again. So I went las cannons on the side, the big Vanquisher cannon, because again, it just seemed the range is so big, it just seems a really good choice. And then a las cannon on the front of that one. And for this one, I went for the demolisher cannon on the front of it. So you can see again, primed. Now, actually, this one, obviously, I didn't prime it on the sprue for these, so I've built these ones up and then primed them once they were built. And there we go. So 2 Baneblades, 2 Malcadors primed up and ready. And there we go with the Leman Russ finally. So now you can see the scale of all 3 tanks built. And you can see some of the tracks and nodules from cutting it off, but we're going to cover those at a later stage. So there we are, all the tanks now from the starter set. So 4 Leman Russes, 2 Malcadors, and actually that's an extra purchase technically, so two Baneblades from a Baneblade edition. Armaments on the Leman Russ, you can see I went kind of split it into 2, so I went 2 Vanquishers, 2 battle cannons. With the Vanquishers being long range, I went for the las cannons attached to them, and then with these ones having a bit of a shorter range, I went with the heavy bolters. And then I've got a command vehicle on each. So I've got a command vehicle, well, 1 man inside the Vanquisher and a man inside that, just so I can switch and choose which command vehicle I want depending on how I feel. Or expanding. So I'd probably expand, and then when I expand and buy another set of these, I'll probably have 2 Vanquishers, 2 more Vanquishers, and have a squad of 4 Vanquishers, and then have a squad of 4 battle cannon ones. And that way, because I've already done the command tanks, I just can build regular tanks with the next expansion. So next stage is using this contrast green, which was Militarum green. I started doing some camo patterns. Now, the actual process I've done is exactly the same as my Battletech Mech Warriors. It's exactly the same process, and I just liked it so much I've decided to apply it to these as well. The only difference being my Mech Warriors have a bit of more tiger striping with the green, whereas this is more of a camo. As you can see down here, you can just about make out, I've actually dry brushed them as well with a pale sand before doing the green stage, just to give some edge highlighting. So dry brush, pale sand, and then Militarum green over. And here you can see as well as a sepia wash. So I'm trying to rack my brains now. I think I did the sepia wash as well before dry brushing, just to highlight the grooves and give some pre-shading. So yeah, it just went over it just gives a nice affinity effect. You can see the difference there. So that's Sandry Dust primed, and then that's with a sepia wash over. It just darkens it down a little bit, and as you can see, it just gives more definition into all the grooves and things. So Sandry Dust, touch up any bits that need touching up with the Sandry Dust layer paint that's exactly the same shade. Wash with sepia, and then dry brush with a pale sand. Now, I used Vallejo pale sand for the dry brush, but I'm sure like a Shabity Bone or something similar from Citadel will do the job. And then Militarum green for this stage. So there it was, just like same picture but just slightly different coloration. As you can see how sometimes the colours my lamps and things change how it appears. But as you can see, you kind of need 2 layers of this Militarum green, but what I did is I go quite wide with the first layer, and then the second layer I go all the way to the edge, and it kind of gives it a natural kind of feathering effect, so it's not a harsh line. And there is very harsh bright light now, but just to kind of pick out so you can see the details. It doesn't quite look that shade in real lighting, but that's probably closer to how it looks. And then you can see the tracks here. Now, what I do for my tracks, a great contrast colour I find for oily or weathered, or not weathered, like kind of a corroded oily metal look, is using Garagax Sewer, I think it's called, contrast paint. It's a very nice oily colour, so I've used that on the tracks. I think it's really good as a paint for tracks. So there you can see I've actually put another bit of a dry brush there, just to pick out some more after the green, just give some edges onto the green as well. And that, to all intents and purposes, is kind of finished, but I've now picked out the bolters since this photo, and the lights. You can see I put some rust in on the back as well. So that's again just highlighting the stage before camo, so you can see the sepia in the grooves. You can see the dry brushing on the edges just to give definition before camoing it up. And here you can see the tracks colour, so that Garagak sewer, and I've just dry brushed. I did the Garagak sewer on this as well. I've just dry brushed on a bit of a rust. So I think I've actually used riser rust from Citadel, but it's a very, very bright orange. So I'd recommend, after putting it on, just washing it down with a bit of sepia or possibly Agrax, just to take it's almost a luminous orange, so it's a bit too bright, to be honest, for a rust colour. But with a bit of a wash over it, just takes a bit of the harshness out. And there we are. That's still not the finished ones, but I think we'll see one later. But now we can see the whole squad painted up. So all 4 Lehman Russies, the 2 Malcadors and the 2 Bane Blades in that colour scheme. And I really like it. I don't know what it is about Guard or Solar. The tanks, and they look smart in like the uniform greys. But something about camo looks really good on them. I don't know if it's just because they're more relatable to real world tanks or World War II tanks possibly. That just colours look, camo colours look really good on them. So that's my preference anyway. Not a great picture. Yeah, so you can see I started painting some bolters up on these, so the bolters are all black. Heavy bolters, yeah, so I've painted up the heavy bolters and some of the stubbers and things. Not a great picture because of the lighting, but there we are, that's a bit better. So yeah, just picked out some of the heavy bolters and auto cannons and things, and the barrels for them as well, and a bit of the bolt gun metal. And that is it. That is my solar vehicles. Again, you can see the tracks painted up. Did I have the tracks painted up in the previous? Yeah, I did. So, like I say, it's Garag's sewer, and a bit of a dry brush of just a very faint dry brush of lead belcher, just to make them look a bit metallic. There we go. Bit of a brighter light there, just to show it. And there we are, laid out next to my Marines, so you can see that I actually painted my Solar, despite the videos going up in the other order. But I painted my Solar first. Again, the picture doesn't really help. There we go. This gives us some kind of scale of the Bane Blade next to, say, the Sicaran and the Predators. And again, you can see the Sicaran. You can see how big. I mean, Sicaran's a really big tank compared to a Predator. It's quite a sizable tank. It's not far off a Malcador. Well, very cool. And then we go on to the infantry. So the infantry, I primed black, and then I primed with lead belcher. Took a few thoughts of what to do with the infantry, because I didn't know anything about solar infantry or what they looked like. So I had to look up a few images, and I saw that they seem to be. In fact, I'll tell a lie. I painted them black and I dry brushed lead belcher on. The reason I did that is because I didn't have lead belcher spray, so I remember now. So primed them black and then dry brushed on lead belcher. So you could spray it on, it's not a problem. Good thing about dry brushing it on is you do keep some of the black in the recesses, but either one works. You could spray it on and then wash with a normal oil for the same effect. But yeah, like I was saying, I didn't know much about the colours, but when I did some recess, it looked like they were quite metallic with, their armour and their armour plating and things. So similar to my Alpha Legion, I actually decided to go for a lead belcher colour. So just built up the walkers because they look really cool, so I wanted to see what they look like. And then for the colours, I've actually gone for a red. This is a contrast red straight over the lead belcher. It gives it kind of a metallic look. I've tried to put a really bright picture on it to pick out the kind of metallic effect. It's quite difficult to see it with the camera, but I think that kind of shows it. So these are the Ogryns in the set. And well, I went ahead and just carried on finishing the Ogryns using the same basing method that I did on the Alpha Legion. Same effect. And that is the Ogryns made up and some walkers as well. I have done more to the painting of these, but that was a very early picture that I painted these up before, actually before doing the tanks as well. So this was these were the first models for Legion Imperialis that I actually painted. So kind of a test piece, really, see how things went. And then I realised these were very metal looking, so I wanted to tie them in with a tank. So I just painted this front bit in armour. I'd not actually looked up how the studio had painted them, so what was meant to be armour, what was meant to be metal, or so on. So in reality, when I did my next two of these, I prefer the next two's paint scheme. This reminds me heavily of my Epic 40k Orcs scheme, which was very metallic and brass looking. So I may change them in the future. But there we go. There we are set, and like I say, I added a bit more colour to these. Just added some brass just to give them some more effect. But yeah, quite effective. So now going on to the troops, I was happy with the overall schemes and colour palette I was going to use. So I went on to painting the troops. So obviously painted them on the sprue, as you can see, just makes life a bit easier. For the red, I didn't paint all of it red, so I just picked out key features like shin guards or greaves and whatever these bits are called on the coccyx from the rear, and chest plates and gloves. Picked out red, but I kept kind of the lead belcher in between. Painted the helmets gold and key things gold, like backpacks and end of the flamers and so on. Just trying to get some variety and some effect. I think it came out quite good. The leader, I just did a bit more, so a bit of a power sword, and picked out his what do they call Mohican-y thing on his like gladiator style helmet. Bit of gold onto his weapons as well, just to, in fact, all the kind of power swordy things I just kind of give a bit of a gold trim just to make them look a bit more important. And this is them flicked round. So again, plasma guns, I picked out a bit of the plasma coil in blue. Again, the power swords, just put a bit of blue contrast on just to pick them out. And the guns, I think I gave them just a very light, what's it called, basilicum grey contrast, just to not go full black, but just to make it a bit darker than the rest of the figure, so you could see a bit of a weapon there. So yeah, there we go. Then we've got the sword guys. Again, the shaft I picked out with the black just to darken it up next to the axe head, just to give some variety. There's one of the flamer dudes, the captain leader of the flamers. And there they are on a base. So that's like kind of the command base. Not a bit blurry, apologies. I think it's focused on the banner. Obviously I'll put some decals on the banner, so at the moment it's a bit plain looking, but good enough to get going with. So yeah, and then it's like a scribe here with a load of books and things. And that's them laid out. So that was the fourth. Actually, that's only one sprue of men, so I have got another sprue of men I haven't quite finished. So there is more to this, but essentially it is done. And looking good. I just do like the way they look. The amount of detail on there is really, really good for such a small scale. I think this was me just trying to take some lighter pictures. So I put a bit of a white background on just to try and make the model stand out a bit more so you could see detail more. So that was a axe unit, a gun unit with a command piece, and a flamer unit. Can't remember the name, sorry, it's been a while. And there's the main command guy and a secondary commander, I suppose. So I think you've got two HQ units you can choose. Like you can only have one of these per 1500 points, I want to say. And then any more HQs has to be this lesser version. And here we can see what I was saying about, I did the next ones of these in a different colour scheme, so I did a lot more camo on these, a lot more of the models painted in the sandry dust and following the same scheme as the tanks, just because I think it ties in better with the tanks, and it looks a bit better. This looks a bit orc-like for me, whereas this looks a bit more guard. They're not finished in this image. I have done more, so I've picked out the this canopy, I don't know, viewport I want to say. So I've picked out, and it doesn't look like I've washed this one. Maybe not. So then I've picked out the rockets and coloured those in as well since that photo. And here we are, a bit of a video. Just hopefully give it a bit more of a view of how they all have come out. But overall, pretty happy with them. I think it looks pretty good. I've not actually played with them, so I'm looking forward to playing with them. My only problem with, well, one of the reasons why I've not played with them is I don't feel what you got in the starter set was actually enough really for a game. So I've kind of been waiting for them to come out with some expansions, which they're now finally doing. So I aim to get those, build them up, get them painted, and actually field a sizable force. So there we go. That is my solar done. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you've been doing with yours and how you've been getting on, and if you've played the game, let me know about it. My next video I will do will be for the Titans and the Knights. Let me see if I've got a preview just to give you whet the appetite maybe. So there we are. There's a bit of a preview. So some Knights and some Titans. And as you can see, I've got quite a few. So that's going to be the next video, and as you can see there's a bit of terrain in the background as well, so I've got some terrain videos coming up. So that will be another one. So again, wet appetite I suppose, but there we go, bit of terrain done, bit of comparisons of terrain as well. And there we go. So that's it. I'll get some next video out as soon as I can. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye for now.